Good morning, dear students. In today's lesson, we will be reading a new fictional text from our Unit 7, Belonging. The title of the text is Red Dog and Nancy Gray. From the topic, you can understand that there are two characters about which the story is. The first character is a red dog. The dog plays an important role. And then its interaction with another character named Nancy Gray. If you study the picture carefully, it gives us the setting of the story. The picture tells you the characters, introduces the characters as well. So as you can see in the picture, there is a young lady. Most probably, she is Nancy Gray. And you can also see a red dog sitting on the seat. The place is a bus. Nancy seems to be riding on a bus with a red dog, and there are men sitting all around her. These men, you can see from their clothing and from their shoes and from their hats that they seem to be workers, some sort of workers probably. And you can see that they are all laughing at the situation. Nancy seems to be in a state where in a difficult situation, and the dog seems adamant, and the dog seems a bit rude, although not angry, not in a defensive way. But we can see that Nancy is she is stuck in a situation with the dog, and all the people, the men around her, are laughing at her. Let's take a start at this story. One day, someone turned up on the bus whom no one had ever seen before. As I have told you earlier, the first sentence of the creative work always acts as the hook. Whatever sentence you write, your first sentence should be chosen carefully, because this sentence tends to grab the reader's attention. So a sense of mystery is created with the first sentence. Someone turns up, someone shows up, someone enters whom no one has ever seen before. This is a mysterious person, absolutely new person. Nancy Gray was new in town, having come to work as a secretary at Hammersley Iron. Hammersley Iron shows that the name of the company she's going to work for is an iron smelting or iron making company, something to do with the metal iron. And she had never heard about Red Dog. And obviously, since she is new in town and she has come to work with as a secretary for Hammersley Iron, she is new in town and she has never ever heard of the Red Dog before. When she got on the bus to go for her first morning at work, she found it full of miners, as you could see already in the picture that from the clothing. So now it is absolutely visible that these workers are actually miners. They mine iron. So she is basically going to be working for an iron mine by the name of Hammersley Iron. When she got on the bus to go for her first meeting at work, she found it full of miners and with no empty seats except for a seat behind the driver, which had a red dog in it. So there was just one empty seat, as you can also see in the picture, and all the other seats, they were full. Were full with miners sitting in them. So there was just one seat empty behind the driver, and on it was a red dog. She looked at the rows of men grinning at her, and she gazed at the red dog, who looked away as if he had not noticed her. So you can see how the men are grinning at her already. What do you think? Why are they grinning at her? Think. Maybe they are looking at her, like for example, in any such situation, if a woman is involved, you will notice how men behave. This is exactly how they do. The woman is in a fix, she's in a situation, and men are laughing at her, ready to see how she behaves in such a situation. And the dog, on the other hand, is absolutely ignoring her after having a glance at her. None of the men offered her their seat because they wanted to see what would happen when Nancy tried to move the red dog. Okay, so the reason why the men are grinning is because they do not offer her their seat is because they want to see how Nancy will behave. This is probably going to determine what kind of respect Nancy will earn in the new place where she is. Down, said Nancy, who wasn't going to take any nonsense from an animal. Red Dog looked up at her and settled himself into his seat more firmly. Instead of leaving, instead of, shooing away, the dog is comforting, getting more comfortable in his place. Bad dog, exclaimed Nancy, and Red Dog curled his lips and gave a low growl. Can you see how the dog is acting? Just notice, the most important thing throughout the story is how the dog acts and how Nancy is going to behave. Most importantly, how the dog is going to behave throughout. When she calls him a bad dog, he curls his lips and gives a low growl, showing as if he is a bit upset. He's getting angry, getting offended. Nancy was a little bit shocked and drew back, but at the same time, she was almost sure that this dog would never bite her. His expression wasn't quite fierce enough. The men in the bus began to laugh at her. You'll never get him out of there, said one. That's his seat, said another. No one sits there when Red wants it. That is, until and unless Red does not allow, that is, Red means the dog, that's what they call him as a nickname. Until unless the dog doesn't allow it, no one is allowed to sit in that seat. Nancy faced the men and began to blush. Now she is feeling embarrassed. It was embarrassing to be outfaced by a dog and a busload of miners. Now she is in an embarrassing situation. So she's blushing. Determined not to give in, she sat down gingerly on the very edge of the seat, where Red Dog wouldn't be disturbed. Now notice her behavior. Notice how the writer is explaining her behavior. He's describing the way she is timidly moving into the seat, sitting almost at the edge, gingerly, in a very cautious manner, very slowly, very without disturbing or without aggravating the dog.